Hi friends, it's Jasmine, your Vancouver, Washington Realtor extraordinaire. I help people buy and sell homes all over Southwest Washington and the Portland Metro, and if you're planning a move, reach out. Call me, text me, email me, whatever's easiest. I work with a lot of folks who are relocating from out of state or navigating a big life transition, and I'd be honored to help guide you through yours too. Because today, we're talking about something I get asked all the time, and I mean all the time, especially by people moving here from places like California, Oregon, or Arizona. And that question is, should I be worried about wildfires if I move to Vancouver, Washington? Now, if you've ever lived through wildfire season before, or even just watched the news from afar, I totally understand why that question comes up. The smoke, the evacuations, the destruction, it's heartbreaking. And when you're getting ready to plant roots somewhere new, the last thing you want to feel is uncertain about your safety. But here's the thing, Vancouver, Washington is not like a lot of high-risk areas you hear about on the West Coast. We do get smoke, yes. We've had a few small wildfires in the county, but when it comes to actual fire danger, most neighborhoods here, especially the ones my clients are buying in, are considered low risk. That said, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. I'm here to give you real talk, real research, and real advice, so you can make a confident decision and know exactly what to look out for. So if you've ever wondered, how bad is wildfire season in Vancouver, Washington? Or what if I buy a home near trees or brush? Is that a problem? This video is for you. We're going to talk about the most recent fire events in our area, the difference between smoke and flame risk, how local neighborhoods are rated, what I recommend for buyers looking in rural or wooded spots, and the simple things you can do to protect your peace of mind and your future investment. So stick around because you're gonna walk away feeling more informed and way more empowered when it comes to buying a home in Southwest Washington. Let's get into it. If you're watching this and thinking, yeah, Jasmine, wildfires are exactly what's been stressing me out, I want you to know you're not the only one. This is one of the most common questions I get from relocation clients. It usually comes up right after we talk about neighborhoods and schools. They'll lean in a little and say, so be honest, how bad are the wildfires here? And honestly, I get it. Wildfires are scary. Whether you've experienced one yourself or just seen it all over the news, the smoke, the evacuations, the homes burned down to the foundation, it sticks with you, especially if you're coming from places like California, Southern Oregon, Eastern Washington, Arizona, or parts of Colorado. These are areas where wildfire season isn't just a risk, it's an expectation. And if you've ever lived through a season where the sky turns orange and your car is covered in ash, it's only natural to wonder if the place you're moving to is going to be more of the same. There's also just a bigger cultural awareness around fire now than there used to be. The wildfire seasons are longer, summers are hotter and drier. It's not just a California thing anymore. We're seeing smoke events and fire warnings all over the western US. And climate data shows this isn't going to go away anytime soon. So even if you're buying in an area that's technically low risk, the concern is still very real, especially if you're trying to protect your family, your pets, your health, and your investment. But here's what I always say when the question comes up. Yes, you should ask about wildfire risk. No, you probably don't need to worry the way you might think. Because when we're talking about Vancouver, Washington, and I'm talking about the city itself and most of the surrounding suburban areas, we're not dealing with the same conditions you'll find in high-risk wildfire zones. We don't have massive hills covered in dry brush. We're not tucked into forest canyons with only one road in or out. Our neighborhoods tend to have good irrigation, wide streets, accessible fire services, and a much more moderate fire risk overall. Now that doesn't mean nothing ever happens. We'll talk about the Nikia Creek Fire in a minute, and we definitely get smoke from fires burning elsewhere. But for most people buying in places like Salmon Creek, Philida, Ridgefield, Camas, Cascade Park, wildfires isn't something you need to fear. You just need to understand it in context. So that's what we're going to be doing in this video. Not to downplay the risk, but to bring some clarity to the conversation. Because the more you understand about what's actually happening here in Southwest Washington, the more confident you'll feel as a buyer. And that's what I want for you. So let's talk about what wildfire risk actually looks like here in Vancouver, Washington. Not the headlines, not the assumptions, but the real local picture. If you're not from here, you might be surprised to learn that we have had a wildfire event in recent memory. In fact, one of the most notable was the Nikia Creek Fire, which broke out in October of 2022. It started up in northeast Clark County near Larch Mountain. That's a forested area with steep terrain and a lot of dry brush, about 20 to 30 minutes outside of Vancouver's suburban core. The fire spread quickly and ended up burning around 1,900 acres. Evacuation orders were issued, including level 3 go now alerts for nearly 3,000 homes in the rural hills nearby. Now that sounds intense, and it was, but what's really important to understand is where it happened. This wasn't a fire sweeping through neighborhoods in Salmon Creek or Ridgefield or Cascade Park. This was in a wildland urban interface zone, meaning an area where natural brush, trees, and forests meet residential properties. These are areas with larger lots, dense vegetation, limited access roads, and yes, more exposure to fire risk. But most of my clients aren't buying on mountaintops or forest ridges. They're buying in well-established suburban neighborhoods with irrigation, defensible space, and fire access, and that makes a big difference. We don't have the same dry hillside terrain you see in California. We don't have the constant red flag warnings that come with living in wildfire-prone regions. So while the Nikia Creek Fire absolutely got our attention, and rightly so, it's not representative of what most buyers will face in the Vancouver metro area. That said, it's still a good reminder that location matters. If you're shopping in places like Yacolt, Amboy, or rural Hockinson, where you're surrounded by natural timberland, then yes, we're going to take a closer look at your lot. We're going to talk about vegetation clearance, roof materials, emergency vehicle access, and what kind of insurance coverage is appropriate. But if you're looking in a more traditional neighborhood, one with trimmed trees, sidewalks, and neighbors right next door, the wildfire risk is significantly lower. Now, one thing everyone in Clark County should be aware of, whether you're near trees or not, is smoke, because we do get it here. Most years around late summer or early fall, we'll see smoke drift in from large fires in southern Oregon, northern California, or even British Columbia. You might not have flames anywhere near your house, but your air quality will still take a hit. So even if you're in a low flame risk zone, you'll want to think about air quality. Having a good HVAC system, a HEPA filter, or an air purifier can go a long way during those smoky weeks. So to sum it up, yes, wildfires can happen here. They have, but for most buyers shopping in Vancouver's main neighborhoods, the actual fire risk is low. The greater concern is smoke, and even that is something you can plan for. With the right awareness, the right property, and the right team on your side, you can move forward confidently and know you're making a smart, informed decision. Now that we've talked about how wildfire risk actually shows up here in Clark County, let's get into what that means for you as a home buyer. Because whether you're buying in the city, the suburbs, or on a few acres out in the country, there are always smart questions to ask and things to look out for during the process. First and foremost, take a close look at the property's surroundings. Ask yourself, does this home back up to a wooded area, a steep hillside, or dry brush? If the answer is yes, that doesn't mean it's a deal breaker. It just means you'll want to pay extra attention to how the land is managed. Look for what's called defensible space. That's a buffer zone between the home and any flammable vegetation. Ideally, there should be at least 30 feet of clearance between the house and anything that could fuel a fire. That means trimmed trees, cleared brush, and no dry vegetation piled up along fences or sheds. Next, take a look at the roof, gutters, vents, and siding. Is the roof made of fire-resistant materials like composite shingles or metal? Are the gutters clean and free of pine needles or dry leaves? Are the vents covered with mesh to protect embers from getting inside? These might sound like small details, but they can make a big difference when it comes to fire resilience. And when we do inspections, I always recommend we have a conversation with the inspector about those specific elements if there's any concern. It's also worth asking about air quality readiness, even if the home isn't in a fire zone. Does the HVAC system have a clean air recirculation mode? Are there HEPA filters in place or a spot to add one? Has the home been sealed well against outdoor air? These are great questions to ask during showings or when you're reviewing inspection reports. And they're especially important if you or anyone in your family has asthma or other respiratory concerns. Now, if you're buying in a more rural area, something like Hockinson, La Center, or Yacolt, you'll want to dig a little deeper. Ask, how far is the nearest fire station? What's the road access like for emergency vehicles? Are there community fire hydrants, or would firefighters be relying on a nearby pond or water tank? These questions aren't meant to scare you, they're meant to prepare you. Because with the right information, you can decide if a particular home is a good fit for your level of comfort. Another tip, talk to your insurance agent before you close. In some areas, especially those that border wildland, fire insurance might be a separate rider or come with certain conditions. It's better to get clarity on that upfront than be surprised after you've moved in. For most of Vancouver, fire coverage is pretty standard, but if you're near forested land, it's worth confirming. And lastly, if you're buying in an HOA neighborhood, find out if the HOA has any vegetation rules or community community fire prevention plans. Some communities have regular brush clearance built into their maintenance schedule, and that's a huge plus. Others may have fire-safe landscaping rules or shared emergency response resources. So the bottom line is this: wildfire awareness isn't just for people living in the mountains, it's for anyone who wants to be a thoughtful, prepared homeowner. And the good news is, a lot of this stuff is simple, manageable, and easy to address before you ever move in. Let's zoom out for a moment and talk about the big picture, not just about what's happening now, but where things are headed. Because one thing I hear from clients, especially those making a long-term move, is, what will the wildfire situation look like in 10 or 20 years? Should I be planning for that now? And the honest answer is, things are changing. Just like the rest of the western US, the Pacific Northwest has been experiencing longer, drier summers. Our rainy season is still very real. Don't worry, you'll still get your fair share of puddles and gray skies in the winter, but summer is trending hotter and drier than it used to be. That means more days where brush and vegetation dry out. It means a slightly longer fire season. And yes, it means smoke events may become a more regular part of late summer life here in Southwest Washington. But it's also important to keep that in perspective. Vancouver is still far less fire prone than a lot of other areas on the West Coast. We're not seeing massive burn scars across our suburbs. We're not evacuating entire towns like what's happened in parts of California or Oregon. What we're dealing with here is more about air quality than flames, and that's something we can plan around. For example, I have clients who've installed high-efficiency HVAC systems with built-in air filtration or picked homes with fewer trees directly around the structure. Some choose neighborhoods with strong community landscaping policies or fire response plans, and almost everyone who lives here keeps a close eye on the AQI. That's the air quality index, especially in late August and September when the smoke risk is higher. There's also a growing focus on preparedness at the city and county level. Clark County now includes wildfire awareness in its emergency management plans. Our local fire department are equipped with more tools and technology than ever before. We have public alert systems in place, and more homeowners are investing in defensible space and routine brush management, which is all great news if you're thinking about your home's long-term safety and resale value. So yes, while climate patterns are shifting, Vancouver still offers a level of stability that many West Coast buyers are actively seeking out. You're not immune from fire or smoke, but you're not in the bullseye either. And with a little foresight and education, you can absolutely plan for the future without living in fear. All right. Let's bring it all together. After everything we've talked about, the local fire history, the terrain, the smoke, the inspections, the climate trends, the big question still stands. Should you, as a homebuyer in Vancouver, Washington, be worried about wildfires? And my answer is, not in the way you probably think. If you're buying in a typical suburban neighborhood in Vancouver or Clark County, whether it's Ridgefield, Salmon Creek, Camas, Fisher's Landing, Philida, or even some of the newer developments out towards Battleground, you are very unlikely to experience a wildfire threatening your home directly. These are areas with trimmed yards, public water access, well-connected road systems, and professional fire departments within minutes. They're not carved into steep canyon walls or surrounded by flammable brush. They're well-planned, well-maintained, and well-served by emergency response teams. Now, does that mean you should completely ignore the issue? No, I wouldn't say that either. If you're looking at a larger lot out in La Center, Yacolt, Hockinson, Amboy, or even certain rural corners of Camas or Washougal, that's when we take a closer look. Those areas can have higher exposures simply because they're surrounded by more vegetation and fewer structural fire breaks. But even then, with proper defensible space, a well-built home, and a solid insurance plan, you're not helpless, you're prepared. What everyone should plan for though, regardless of where you buy, is smoke. That's the more common impact we see. It doesn't matter if you're surrounded by trees or tucked into a brand new subdivision. If there's a big fire happening in Southern Oregon or Northern California, the wind might carry smoke up the I-5 corridor and right into the Vancouver-Portland metro area. But even that is manageable. Most smoke events only last a few days. You'll have advance warning, you can check the AQI, run your air purifiers, and adjust your schedule accordingly. It's not fun, but it's very different from having to evacuate or worrying about your house burning down. And that's why I always tell my clients, don't let the idea of wildfires stop you from buying in a place like Vancouver. Let it motivate you to be thoughtful, informed, and proactive. Let it encourage you to ask smart smart questions during inspections, to consider your HVAC system, and to understand your insurance coverage. But don't let it hold you back. Because for most people relocating from places with actual high wildfire risk, moving to Vancouver is a huge upgrade. You're trading in red flag warnings and evacuation bags for mild summers, green trees, and a more predictable environment. And if you're buying with someone like me by your side, someone who knows the landscape, the neighborhoods, and the nuances, you'll have everything you need to make a safe, smart, and confident decision. So no, you don't need to be scared of wildfires here. You just need to be prepared, and I'll help you do exactly that. Let's land this with some clear, simple takeaways. Because if you're thinking about buying a home in Vancouver or anywhere in Clark County and wildfire has been sitting in the back of your mind, now you have the fact. Here's what I want you to remember. First, most homes in the Vancouver metro area are not at high risk for wildfire damage. You're not looking at the kind of terrain or exposure you see in other parts of the West Coast. That includes suburban neighborhoods in places like Ridgefield, Orchards, Salmon Creek, Cascade Park, Camas, and Washougal. These areas are well irrigated, well patrolled, and well prepared. Second, smoke is more common than flames, and it usually comes from fires in other states, not from Clark County itself. That means air quality is something to think about, especially if you or someone in your household has asthma or other respiratory concerns. So as a buyer, it's smart to ask about HVAC systems, air filters, and indoor air circulation during inspections. Third, if you're looking at homes in wooded or rural areas like Hockinson, Law Center, Yacolt, or Amboy, then yes, we'll want to dig deeper. I'll help you assess things like defensible space, roof and vent materials, emergency access, and even your proximity to the nearest fire station or water source. But again, this isn't about fear, it's about smart planning. Fourth, ask your insurance agent questions before you close. Most homes in this area don't need special wildfire coverage, but if you're in a brushy or forest-adjacent zone, there may be some added requirements or premiums. Get clarity on that up front, not after you moved in. And finally, don't let wildfire worry keep you from buying here. If anything, it's a reason to work with someone local, someone who understands the land, the microclimates, the terrain, and what to watch for. Someone who's not just reading headlines, but living and working in these neighborhoods every day. That's where I come in. If you're thinking about buying in Vancouver or anywhere in Clark County and you want to feel confident, informed, and protected, I'd love to help. I work with a lot of relocation clients, and I'm always happy to walk you through every step, every concern, and every inspection so that nothing gets missed. You can call or text me at 808-208-7132 or fill out my buyer questionnaire. The link is right down below. We'll talk about your timeline, your goals, and which areas feel like the best fit for you and your lifestyle. So whether you're just starting to explore the area or you've already got a few homes saved on your Zillow favorites, reach out. I'm here to help. Thank you so much for watching. And before you go, I'd love to know, what's your biggest question or concern when it comes to wildfire or smoke risk in a home? Drop it in the comments. I read every one and I'm happy to help however I can. I'll see you in the next video. Bye.